Hello and welcome to the latest in our series of Lockdown Stories, which is a series of short videos in which I am interviewing some of our KLS members about their life as a member and also about their experiences over the last few months in lockdown. And today I'm really pleased to be joined by Louisa. Hey Louisa, how are you doing?
Hi, Rebecca. Yep, really well, thanks.
Great, excellent. So can you start by telling us a little bit about yourself and also about your background as a member of KLS?
Sure, yeah, and thanks for asking me to do this.
Of course.
Yeah, no, it's really nice. My background, so you can hear my muddled accent. I've been in the UK since '92. So 28 years. I came by way of the States and Canada, so I've picked up the nationalities along the way. I'm now a triple national, and I've lived in the same place in the vicinity of KLS for most of the time that I've been in the UK, all barring 6 months. And did I know about the synagogue? I did not.
Wow.
I'm Jewish by birth, and was raised Jewish. In a I would say we were raised Reform. But I can't say that with certainty because I honestly didn't know. I did know that I was bat mitzvah reconstructionist. And I know that later on after university, the synagogue nearest to me was conservative. But I would classify myself as identifying, I suppose, as Reform.
Mm-hmm.
So when I moved here, it was Reform that I looked for. And I attended synagogue from time to time. I had some very good experiences. But you know what? I had years and years and years of hiatus and nothing at all. Until it came to my attention that there was this liberal synagogue called KLS. And it took me some while after that to venture to it. I couldn't believe that there was another synagogue so near me that I didn't know about. But I didn't know what liberal Judaism was. And for no particular reason, it kind of scared me.
We are very scary.
No idea why. It's the opposite of scary, that's for sure. But then as then when the penny dropped, I thought, oh, maybe liberal means liberal. I don't know what was the matter with me, really. And so on in investigating, I noticed that there's a great social program as well as everything else. So I noticed that pre-COVID, there was Krav Maga on a Thursday night. So I thought I'm going to see what Krav Maga is. That sounds really interesting, and I will do a little recce.
And can you tell us, for those who won't know, what Krav Maga is?
Oh, Krav Maga is it's a martial art. And having gone the one time with promises to return because I loved it so much, and I really, really did. But having gone there the one time, I'm absolutely no expert. but it's a martial art. The ethos is self-defense. It is absolutely no more force than is necessary to get yourself out of a situation. Yes, the idea is to save yourself in every way, including saving yourself from incarceration for crossing the line. So indeed, but it's I would say at the extreme end, because it's a seriously effective, I would say, self-defense. Now people who are practitioners are probably cringing at the way I'm describing it, but it's quite the ethos is very positive. It's quite affirming as well, and it's obviously quite physical.
Yeah.
But it's quite focused as well because you're thinking about what you're doing. And I really liked it. So as ever, please don't ask me why I didn't go back. But in any case, the individual I met was prominent is prominent in the synagogue. I thought he was just wonderful and welcoming. And as soon as I walked into the place, I thought, oh, I like this. So then I came back for a service, and it happened to coincide with Rabbi Rene's first service when he joined the synagogue. So that was a bit of kismet, and I liked it so much then that, and I really felt at home. Immediately I was welcomed. This time instead of Mike, who was so welcoming at Krav Maga, I was met immediately by Craig, who was ultra welcoming, and everybody I met was so friendly and welcoming. And the service was wonderful, and I thought, oh, I have found my home. But what's liberal Judaism?
Right.
So I did what I do, and I got a book.
Yes, that's Pete.
Liberal Judaism, Judaism for the 21st century.
And that's by Pete Tobias, I believe.
It is, yeah.
I know it well.
Yeah, marvelous. So reading through it, I thought, well, actually, this is my Judaism. This is, I really am home. And there we are.
Fantastic. And that was that about 3 years ago? Is that right? 3 or 4 years ago?
I would say that's about right. Yes.
Fantastic. Okay. Wonderful. Okay. And so can you tell us a little bit about what your own personal situation has been during the lockdown, and how have you been spending your time?
Yes. Home alone. Yes. So I'm one of the lucky ones, I would say. Yes, home alone. But in a comfortable situation. I'm lucky enough to be able to work from home quite effectively. It's obviously not perfect, but quite effectively. My work hasn't abated in any way. If anything, it's increased because of the issues that have arisen with respect to the pandemic and the management of it, which is relevant to the work that I do. I have a garden, and I love my garden, and spending time in it, looking after it, then it looks after me. And so my situation has, to that extent, been, I really am one of the lucky ones. My family hasn't been unaffected. It's been tough, but we have everybody still. Not everybody is so lucky. And also through this medium, I've been lucky enough to stay very connected. I've done a variety of things online through, including all of the activities, all of the many activities, from the services to the Seder and more with the synagogue. I've done regular dance classes because pre-pandemic, pre-COVID, I was and am an avid Lindy hopper.
Yeah.
And one of my most favorite teachers is Jenny Thomas, who runs really effective classes now for solo jazz and steps and such things on by Zoom. And so I did them, did some yoga classes. I was lucky enough, again, through the synagogue, to have been alerted to Gareth Malone's Great British Home Chorus, which I joined, and which really was a wonderful focus and diversion project.
Yeah, absolutely. And you might have seen that I interviewed Jane Ward a few episodes back, and obviously she was one of the other KLS members. I think there were 4 or 5 of you, weren't there, who were involved in that?
Yes, yeah. I think there were 4 of us. Jane was really quite prominent, and she's really very special.
She spoke about it. It just sounded absolutely incredible.
Yeah. It really was. I mean, I could evangelize about it. Really, and I'm so grateful. I sum it up regularly by saying that it meant the world, which it really did.
Yeah, it's
Really
amazing. And you're so right as well. The technology that we've had available to us has made such a difference to so many people. And again, you know, a common theme coming out of this is a lot of our members are fortunate to be in similar situations, you know, with their own houses and gardens and stuff like that. But I think we're all really conscious of how fortunate we are. Anyway, you mentioned that you've been involved with KLS in the sense that you've been attending regular services and the Seder, and you're always there on the chat in the Facebook comments during the Shabbat services, which is great to see. What has this involvement meant to you during this time?
Well, you know, as I say, the course meant the world. This also has meant the world. It's meant so much. I mean, first of all, I'm full of awe at you and the others who have, worked so hard to bring it to us through ever improving technology, and it works wonderfully well, and it brings us together.
Yeah.
I never imagined how closely connected you could feel to the community while being remote, and it really is effective, and it really is. It's a lovely constant. It's a lovely feeling of connection to community, as well as just sort of spiritual nourishment.
Yeah, absolutely. And would you say that during this time that your relationship with your Judaism has changed at all?
I would say it's a baseline, if that's the right word. No, because I've always identified very strongly, even though I haven't, even though I had many years of not practicing, not attending synagogue. It didn't abate in me in any way. But of course, now I'm attending online most Friday nights and Saturday mornings, which is far different. And it means that I'm learning the liturgy, and really learning the melodies, the tunes for the prayers that we sing, and that is a wonderful thing. I mean, in as part of the spiritual nourishment is the music, the wonderful musical element that comes with it, and that's really nourishing and wonderful. And I sort of love every bit of it. I love each sermon. They're so thoughtful, yeah. So I absolutely do my level best to attend each and every one.
That's fantastic. I mean, you've already talked a little bit about what you've learnt, the liturgy and some of the melodies and all of that. Is there anything else that you say you've learnt during the lockdown? It doesn't necessarily have to be related to KLS or Judaism. It can be anything.
I think like a lot of people, I feel like I've slowed down, even though my workday is just as long, often just as long. I feel like I'm at a slightly slower pace because I've learned to really notice stuff more. I mean, we all talk about how many birds there are, and maybe they were always there and we just didn't see them. There's one day at the end of May, I went along the side of my house for no particular reason, and I saw this rosebud. It was tall, and this really vivid pink, almost fuchsia. It was the most beautiful rose. I didn't even know I had a rose there. I had no idea. And this thing was so vivid, and it was just all by itself, you know. And I have this really scrappy side lot that doesn't do much of anything. And there's this beautiful beautiful rose there. 5 days later, it had opened up until, like a plate-sized blossom, and then it was gone. And for all I know, it had done that every year, and I just had no idea. And I just have been really reflecting on that, actually, as just indicative of what I'm learning through the experience of the lockdown.
Things that we noticed that we didn't notice before when we were so busy. Wow.
Yeah,
it's beautiful.
And the just really sort of hidden, exquisite things that even though I have missed them, they're still exquisite. And I think there's a real lesson in that.
Absolutely.
I've learned a variety of other things too. More things we commonly hear. Like I've learned jazz routines. I've learned songs. I've learned liturgy. My Hebrew's improving. I've learned the value of connecting. Well, more of the value of connecting with people and community. I've learned a little bit of ukulele.
Oh gosh.
So there have been a lot of new things despite the lockdown.
Well, I guess that kind of slowing down and maybe having a little bit of time. I mean, obviously I know you've been really busy, but not only has it allowed you to learn all of those things, but like you say, it's also allowed you to sort of see some of that hidden beauty, which is just a lovely way to wrap up, I think, Louisa. That's fantastic. Thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah, it's a pleasure.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you. And for those of you who are watching, stay tuned. There'll be some more where this one came from. See you all soon.